Welcome to the Happy Rebel podcast, where we explore the realms of finding your calling, living your values, and doing the work of self-healing. Through candid conversations with fellow seekers, we'll uncover ideas and concepts that challenge, expand, and empower us to embrace our authentic selves and live with intention. Hi there, I'm Kelly Street, owner of Happy Rebel and your guide on this journey. I'm known for my insatiable curiosity and tendency for pushing boundaries. I've always been a challenger, eager to question the status quo and explore the uncharted territories of personal growth. So join me as we navigate the twists and turns of life's journey, seeking out the wisdom and insights that illuminate our path towards fulfillment and rebellion against the ordinary. Before we get started, I want to remind you to connect with me on Instagram at Happy Rebel, where you can ask questions and share your thoughts. Remember, you are never alone on your path to becoming a happy rebel. This is the Happy Rebel Podcast. Close or focus your eyes gently and take a deep, cleansing breath. Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, release any tension or distractions. As you breathe in, visualize a radiant light filling you with clarity, purpose, and intention. With each exhale, release anything that no longer serves you on this path. In this moment, we embrace the duality of existence, the balance between light and dark, challenges and victories. We recognize that growth comes from our rebellion against the ordinary. As you continue to breathe deeply, remember that you are not alone on this journey. With gratitude for this moment of grounding and connection, slowly open your eyes, prepared to embark on this podcast adventure. Hello, Fabiola.
Hello, Kelly.
I'm so excited to have you here and to get to know you more, basically, for me and for all of our listeners. Because even though I met you and spent several days with you in person, I know just like kind of little snippets of your story. So why don't you start off with introducing yourself to everyone listening, and maybe I'll learn a few things.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me. This is such a treat to get to be able to be here. So my name is Fabiola Zirino. I'm native to San Diego, California, and I guess, well, the most difficult thing is to put myself in a box because I've been breaking out of boxes probably my whole life. So I love your rebel theme. Um, let's see where to start. Well, I'll start with right now. I have I've basically been a spiritual seeker my entire life, and at this moment, I'm bridging the bridging the world between trying to live a normal job, work a normal life, and now into um, jumping into doing spiritual work as my main purpose. The kind of spiritual work I've been into, besides the fact that I did spend 5 years in a Buddhist monastery, ordained for 2 years, I feel like that was only a small segment of my whole spiritual journey, how it's been unfolding. But yeah, I dove into plant medicine when I left the monastery, and that has been a beautiful unfolding now as I'm starting to even facilitate plant medicine journeys. I did my first one last 2 weeks ago,
Wow.
and I've also been diving into dream work, dream worlds, understanding symbolism in dreams, different dream traditions, and just how interconnected we are in like the shamanic realms,
Mm-hmm.
and how we can visit others and get meaning from our dreams. So that's kind of the work I've been doing right now. But obviously there's so
Wow.
much.
Yeah. So you have been on quite a spiritual journey for a long time, diving in and out and through different worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like I can start like with this lifetime, and I know many of us probably listening can trace ourselves back to many other lifetimes, but in this lifetime gathering spiritual information from different traditions, different places, just to see what resonates with me, and basically to gather the information to learn how to live this life, this 3D reality. So
Yeah. So how did you spiritually or religious, if you want to put those kind of structures around it, how did you grow up?
so my parents were Catholic. They were nominally Catholic and culturally Catholic. So I went to Sunday
Yeah.
school. The funny part is that my mom was Catholic kind of for the community and for out of
Mm.
like habit. So we would always like we didn't really take the rituals very seriously. And my dad has Jewish ancestry, so he was
Oh,
like
wow.
raised Catholic, but also very like um, kind of like a critical thinker. So he would always like the thing that he would say is like Virgin Mary's great, but why does she need to be a virgin? You know, like just very like kind of logical, realistic. So I grew up with that kind of Catholicism and a lot of mysticism coming from my mom. My mom was very
Mm.
steeped. My mom's Mexican and grew up with a lot of folk traditions. So very,
Yeah.
very steeped in like traditional folk medicine beliefs.
Yeah. Okay. This this might be kind of a coming out of left field, but I have been curious to talk to someone who has that background in ancestry with the mix of Catholic and sort of folk shamanic mysticism or traditional spiritual practices in the Mexican different areas in Mexico, and just wondering, I think for a lot of Mexican people or people of Mexican descent, they tie Catholicism in really tightly with their heritage, and it has been tied in for 400 years, but I think it's almost this forgetting that that's colonialism and that Catholics came in and did exactly what we tried to do to the indigenous people in the United States. And it sometimes is so strange to me that that part is forgotten, because I'm like, you guys, this isn't your whole spirituality. There's this whole ancestral knowledge of all of these traditional practices. So as a person of Mexican descent, how do you feel about that? How do you resonate with that?
Well, I love that you asked, and I love that we're on this topic, and that I mentioned the Virgin Mary earlier because that's the classic example of
Yeah.
if you've seen images of the Virgin of Guadalupe, it's like she's
Yes.
like Mother of Mexico. Um, she actually is like a Catholicized version of the Aztec or Nahua goddess Tonantzin. So basically, Tonantzin was a goddess that the Aztecs revered and
Wow.
prayed to and made offerings to. And when the colonizers came, they basically took the image of Tonantzin that the indigenous people were already like used to and familiar with, and basically superimposed the Virgin Mary on top of her, and that's why you see the Virgin of Guadalupe now. She's like has darker skin. She has a lot of like indigenous symbolism, but with the
Yes.
Catholicism superimposed, and that was like 400 years ago, right? So now it's really hard to extricate like what was indigenous, what is Spanish, what was like forced onto indigenous people, and it kind
Mm-hmm.
of just became this clash and chaos and like this whole mixing that we're now kind of dealing with the effects of, like, 400 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge topic, and it's funny because even just having this conversation, like the fact that being Catholic was like the okay thing to do, and like the folk, medicine traditions always were in the background, and that's basically the story of my life. Nominally Catholic, but having all my spiritual and mystical, shamanic beliefs, experiences, and practices having to be taboo, having to be in the closet, having to be hidden away from the public. So I'm grateful to be in a place where I've cultivated enough safety in my body to be able to talk about this and just be okay with like authentically expressing these parts of me that have been hidden or have been cast out or historically, like, destroyed. Killed.
These ancient parts of you that were told were unacceptable. And I am such a big believer in ancestral or inherited trauma and how that generationally gets passed on and gets learned over generations and generations. And I see this wave of people now, and I'm sure it happens in each generation where there are a number of, hundreds or thousands of people or more, hopefully, who are awakening to. I have a lot of stories around who I wasn't allowed to be because it was unacceptable because my historical people were killed.
Mhm.
And I just love that you're stepping into this new phase of accepting all of those parts of you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's such a journey because even now talking about it, I can feel like my blood getting a little bit hot. Like it's
Yeah.
it's it's nerve-wracking because of the past. But
Yes.
I feel like I've received enough messages and enough support and all of the work that I've been doing to be able to feel safe in the expression of like kind of occult spiritual practices.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some of the things that you've done that have helped you come into this feeling of being safe? Because I think that's an important message of it isn't just a you woke up yesterday and you were like, "Oh, I'm good. I can step out of the spiritual closet and I can be this person that I want to be." It
Yeah,
sometimes takes a really long time.
right. It takes a really long time. And um, I guess it's been a lot of like little steps and maybe some big ones. I think first of all, the most important work that I've been doing is cultivating a sense of safety, trust in myself, sovereignty,
Mm.
and returning to my body, coming back to my physical body. And I can honestly, in recent times, I can trace it to maybe the first retreat I did with Morgan, Shiloh, and Emily, who was that 2022? I had a big, we did a big psilocybin journey, and that that was my first time doing like a big dose of psilocybin. And a few hours into it, my soul, my consciousness, everything that is basically alive in my body had left. And it was terrifying. It was the most terrifying thing maybe I've experienced recently.
Yeah.
Um, because there's such a feeling of unsafety in my body. So my soul did not feel safe to come back. And it took a while to realize, to little by little come back, remembering who I am, remembering where I am, remember why I'm here, remembering that I have a purpose on this planet, that there's so much love, and to remember love. Um, Remembering love has been really helpful for me, um, to know why we're here and what I'm doing here. So all of that had to come in that moment in order for my soul to literally come back into my body. And after that experience, I worked maybe like for the next 2 years or until now, on physically coming back into my body. So I started doing more exercise, working out at the gym to like come back, reorient myself.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of meditation. Hape has been really helpful, really grounding. Yeah, just a lot of cultivating more awareness when my mind starts to wander and I'm not present and I start to like go.
Yeah.
Maybe this can resonate for people who, what is it called? Dissociate. I think I like
Yes.
was very dissociated a lot. It's like something triggering happens and I'm gone, you know? Or in
Yes.
my work, I worked at a school and like the kids would say something that would trigger me and I'm gone. So it's like
Yes.
breathing, maybe stepping outside, taking space, grounding, feeling the sunshine, anything to help me come back into the body and remember, okay, most important thing is to be here.
Yes. Would you be able to describe, or at least try to describe, what dissociation felt like for you? Like, how did you notice that you weren't there in your body in those moments?
That's a really good question. Okay, well, I can describe how it feels in a plant medicine ceremony, so that that's like a very extreme version,
Yeah.
and then in daily life, it's like a little bit subtler. But I remember trying to eat a cracker, and the cracker literally has no taste, and just feels like just chewing substance. So it felt like there's no awareness, no consciousness in my tongue to be able to perceive the taste. So it feels like a numbness.
Mm.
A numbness. You can almost imagine, like, right now I see the world in color. And when I dissociate, it goes to like grayscale. The grayscale, grayscale. Numb, grayscale. I'm not here. Like something in my mind. I'm like going to some safe place far, far, far away in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. I just always love to anchor in what different people's experiences are of that feeling. Because I know for me, dissociation felt like I was living behind a pane of glass for a long time. For years, for decades of my life, it was as if there was that, even that glass that's almost privacy glass, where it's a little bit, has the kind of those ripples on it, or you can't quite fully see through the glass. It was as if I was living with that around me all the time. And so I could see what was happening. I could participate in things, but I was never quite sure that I was real, or that what was happening was real, because I couldn't see it clearly. Oh, you just went on. I can't hear you anymore. Maybe that was. Now I can hear
Okay,
you.
sorry. I put
Yeah,
my phone on Do Not
you're back.
Disturb and somehow that turned off the mic because I got a little
Oh, that must have been so connected. Yeah. Okay, we'll just get back
bit.
into it. I said what I said. Now you can respond.
um, that concept of like living behind a pane of glass, I can totally, totally resonate. Like, it's interesting because I'm taking this dream class, and in the dream class, it talks about how the dream world, like in the shamanic sense, is the real world, and then the 3D world is our dream. And sometimes in our dream, we're actually not living, we're actually not experiencing the dream. So that kind of reminds me of the pane of glass, just like being here rather than like participating, fully living.
Yes. Okay, I definitely want to talk about the dream class. But first, I just want to ask you if you're familiar with Alberto Villoldi, I think is how you say his name. But he wrote the book Healer, Shaman, Sage, and he has a few other books. But he's a big shamanic teacher. And what you said you experienced in that psilocybin session of your soul, experiencing that your soul was outside of your body and calling it back in, sounds to me like what he teaches as a soul retrieval. Or it's really common in the shamanic world to talk about soul retrieval. And that when traumas happen to us, or when we even just, life feels too hard for some of us who are more sensitive, that our soul leaves our body, and it's there, it's hanging around. It's like I'm holding my hand like in the air around me, because that's how it feels, is just that our soul is kind of right there, but it's not within us. And that through the process of a soul retrieval in shamanic work or in the work that you did, you can call it back in and make a safe place for it and be a home to your soul again.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and I think that's exactly what it is and exactly what happened. And I think our soul has like these imprints of trauma, whether from this lifetime or previous lifetimes, that causes it to go far. So it's scary. At least in my experience, it was scary to go back to that place and call it back. But then you can begin the work of making a home for your soul.
So tell me about dreams and what are some things that people should know about the importance of dreams and how to incorporate them? Because I like to do incorporating dream work with my clients, but I know a lot of people who just dismiss them offhand and think that they're completely ridiculous. And I feel that's not true, but I think it's helpful to hear from other people what meaning they've learned or created around their dream world.
Yeah, I love talking about dreams. So I love that we can talk about this. The class that I'm taking right now it talks about different dreaming traditions all over the world, and a lot of ancient traditions would actually like families would sleep together and then wake up in the morning, have breakfast, and share their dreams. And it was just like a regular practice. Yeah, and it's really powerful when like there's like the subconscious mind and the conscious mind, and when we're in the dream space we're in the subconscious mind, but then to realize that we can actually activate our conscious mind as well and navigate into the dream world. So that's like the practice of lucid dreaming, which is so powerful. And like I said, I feel like the dream world is like it is a reality, and this 3D world is kind of just like our projections, we're like little, how do you describe it, like radio signals projecting this 3D world, right? And it's in our deepest parts of our psyche where that world is created. So in dreams we can access that deep world, and we can access the wisdom and the knowledge of this higher order that we're all a part of, that our limited conscious mind can't fully understand. So that's why dreams are so incredibly powerful for me. And yeah, I think I can say that in my time in the monastery, when we had like obviously a very consistent meditation practice, we had very limited stimulation, we were basically living in nature. All of these factors helped contribute to very vivid dreams. And that's where I started to develop this ability to consciously navigate in my dream space and to recall the dreams when I come back into 3D reality.
Wow. That's so amazing that the idea that with less stimulation, we're able to access so much more of ourselves, that what happens at night isn't just blank, and that with less stimulation, there's almost more, the volume is turned up on our dream space.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost like
Wow.
we can hear what's going on inside of us more clearly.
Yeah. So, what are some of the practices that you have around your dreams? You know, I love that idea of the family that gets up in the morning and talks about their dreams. And I try to do that at my house and with my family, is like, I tell my family my dreams, and then like, did anybody else have a dream? What did it mean? And then we try to talk about it a little bit. What are some of the things that you do to have better recall, or just to work with and understand what's coming up for you in the dream space?
There's so much. I think the first and most important thing is having the intention going to bed at night with the intention to access some information. Maybe you have a question, or maybe there's something on your heart that you want, like something, a problem you need to solve, or anything, any information that you might need to know. Going to bed with that intention. And I in meditation maybe like 10, 15 minutes before sleeping helps to calm my mind so that I can go into bed with that calm mind. So it's like, so that my dreams are not like woo-woo, crazy, you know, it's like I go in with a more calm state. I have my eye pillows, obviously, that I put on my eyes, and when I put it on my eyes, then I set the intention.
Okay.
I sometimes drink a tea, like a blue lotus tea with other herbs. There's like the Mexican dream herb, which is called Kalea Sacatechichi. It's a funny name, but it's a powerful hallucinogenic. And there's a lot of other herbs that are like sedatives, that calm your nervous system, that produce powerful dreams as well. So there's the tea. And then as I go to sleep, that's when I practice breathing. So breathing and consciously guiding my awareness into my body, because when we're dreaming, like our soul is traveling, so we're like astral traveling.
Yeah.
So setting up intentions of safety, of groundedness, in order to fully trust and let go. And then once you're sleeping, you just let go and go with wherever the dream wants to guide you. And I feel like I've a common theme for me in my dreams is facing fears. I'll have scary situations. I think previously it was like I've had nightmares of like school shootings or like bombings, attacks, all those sort of things. And waking up in cold sweats, and I would have to like wake up, remember it's a dream, and then go back into the dream re-entry, and reprogram my mind for love in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like repeating affirmations of love in order to kind of counterbalance the energy in my dream. So that's just an example. But then when I wake up, I'll write it down, or I'll just try to remember it any way possible. And then the fun part is seeing the synchronicities that happen in your waking life.
Beautiful. I had never thought of nightmares as facing your fears. That is, I mean, I'm almost in tears thinking about that as a different way of thinking about nightmares, because my whole life I have had I've always been an intense dreamer, and as intense as my, happy or gentle dreams were as intense as my nightmares were. And just that incredible feeling of unsafeness in the dream world, I think, would make me want to read for hours in the middle of the night, or to not sleep very well, or to try to make myself sleep so deeply that I wouldn't consciously know about or remember my dreams. And that's just such an incredible reframe for me, that it's really could potentially be facing a fear. And that idea of going back in, like you said, with an intention of love, of before I allow myself to come fully out of it and come into the waking state and get panicked, to say, what do you say something to yourself in particular? Or do you kind of, what happens in that waking yourself up from a nightmare to going back in? I'm sure it's a split second, but what happens for you there?
I feel like it's just an energy shift that's happening, because if in the dream I'm on the frequency of fear, somehow, somewhere, I have to recall in my heart, mind, body, and soul that there is love. There is also love, and love is more powerful. Is the most powerful thing, and that will always return to love. So it's terrifying because facing fears in dreams, like all of your fears can come up. There can be probably the biggest one's fear of death, which I've encountered many times in my dreams because I've had pretty gnarly dreams. Um, so in those situations of like someone wants to kill me, I've also studied a lot of nonviolence and having almost like faith in like if I'm meant to go in this moment, then I'm meant to go, but I'm gonna go in love. And I send this person love and just returning to love any way possible. There's a poem that I read that's like a shift. It was like some school shooter, some school shooting happened, and one of the people working in the offices faced the shooter and started talking to him, to them.
Wow.
And there was like a poem written out. I wish I had pulled it up, but there was a poem that's like shifting, recognizing that this is a human. Like it's almost like facing a demon, you know, and remembering
Yeah.
that underneath that demon is like a real human or a hurt human. So it's just seeing that in yourself, you know, the whatever the fear is, it's I almost see it, it's meant to help you remember that there's a greater love underneath that. Any way,
That's
shape,
so
or
beautiful.
possible.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And wow. Okay, you'll have to find that poem and then I'll put it in the show notes and share it
Yeah.
because also that's something that I just would love to read because I think that that is an undercurrent of so much of the work that I want to do in the world is remembering that we all do have darkness inside of us, all of us. It just comes out to varying degrees. And while we all also have darkness in us, we also all have light. And we're this incredible mix of both. And it just depends on how hurt or traumatized or um, just or healed we are, depending on which percentage of what is coming out in any given situation.
Mm-hmm. Totally, totally. And it's I know it's the hardest thing to really see, but that those dark parts of ourselves are showing us where we can bring in more light. More light wants to be brought into those places.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that is absolutely true. Those dark parts of us actually do want, or of anybody, want to be healed. They want to be seen. They want to be cared for and nurtured and loved.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to make sure we talk about this life that you had um, a little bit before where you are now, both being in the monastery and being a teacher, because you've had these different kind of phases. It sounds like where you were you were meeting yourself, but you were also meeting all different types of humanity.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because I felt like I've always wanted to be a teacher, and it's funny because my dad is a professor, and a lot of my aunts are teachers, so I have a lot of like teachers in the family, and I always had such high
Yeah.
respect for them, and thought definitely that was what I wanted in my life, and I was on that path, about to get a master's in education, and I think at that point I was really, really struggling when I graduated college. And a friend invited me to a meditation retreat at this Buddhist monastery outside of San Diego. And I realized there that they they had something that I really wanted to learn, which was
Mm.
meditation and basically the Buddhist teachings, which somehow intuitively I knew like I needed to learn that. So
Yeah.
I I dove in. Dove in deeply. And yeah, living in that environment, it's interesting because obviously like practicing meditation every day, listening to the Dharma talks every day, just being in that environment, the Buddhist teachings and the lived experiences that you get were like deeply, deeply embedded into my heart and mind and soul. So yeah, and I like there were huge, huge challenges living in that situation as well, but also huge growth. So I got to a point in 2020 when I felt like my time there was done, and
Yeah.
it was a difficult shift to come back into like regular society. But I know that everything I need and everything that I learned is like in me. So I continued. I was like, okay, let me go back to being a teacher when I came out. Um, and then I did substitute teaching for about a year and a half, and I'm still doing it here and there. Um, but I've just come to realize that the kind of teaching that I want to do just cannot fit into the box of, the public school system or what is
Yes.
what is like, you know, given or regularly expected in our society. It's so much more, especially this spiritual side that, like we said in the beginning, I've been kind of like hiding this part of me. I had to go hide in a monastery to go develop it,
Yeah.
go on the weekends to women's retreats and do plant medicine ceremonies, in the background. And now I'm like, okay, it's time to bring it to the foreground.
Yes. That's so brave. Oh, that's so cool. Do you see yourself working with younger people, or who in this next phase of your life do you see yourself working with, uh, age-wise, or any particular backgrounds that you want to dive into?
I definitely feel maybe young people and adults, definitely adults,
Mhm.
people who feel called to develop in a spiritual sense, people who feel called to dream work and take their dreams seriously. I think feminine embodiment is a big one because that's a big one I had to learn as well or come back to, having been,
Yeah.
basically 5 years in the monastery, not consciously bringing in feminine energy or dealing anything with polarity. And then coming back out into the world and realizing
Wow.
that feminine energy is really important to me, and that probably it's like my deepest desire is to express divine feminine energy. So people who are interested in that sort of thing, that's who I would love to work with, like at this point. I do have this vision, and I've always had this vision of like a school for teenage girls, um, to grow and learn what it means to be a woman in this very holistic sense. Like, in terms of,
Mm.
I think teaching about sexuality at a young age is really important, like safety and
Yeah.
desire and pleasure, and just developing knowing that we're so much more than what we appear to be on the outside. Yes, we're humans and we're so much more. And connection to nature. I could go off.
Yeah, that would be so incredible. I think that's kind of, I was wondering about that because I think I must have tapped into that vision that you have, because I was thinking, wow, I could really see her working with teen girls, young women, to really tap into all of the things that you have had to journey through for yourself with spirituality and femininity and purpose, and just connecting with all of those aspects of yourself that are teachings that I wish we could somehow get in school or that we could get at home, but that sometimes we need to go to a different place and we need to get that teaching from somewhere or someone outside of anybody that we knew in childhood.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like all of this
Yeah.
seeking that I had to do, I would love to just offer it, like, so the younger generations don't have to go to all that effort.
Yeah. And so many of them will, because that's part of what we have to do, is like we have to go and explore and seek and find all of our different paths to follow down. So, yeah. Okay. Talking to you feels, I just have to say, I feel like I've kind of been in this really incredible meditative state with you here. And you just have such a soothing and safe energy about you. And I'm so delighted to have been able to talk with you. So tell everybody what you're doing, how they can connect with you, what they can give or receive from you.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm offering dream coaching sessions, basically. So you can work with me, and I can walk you through a process of accessing your own medicine and your own gifts and wisdom and knowledge through your dreams. And that's something that is new, and I'm really excited to be able to offer that. And obviously the best way to contact me at this moment is through Instagram. So Fabiola_Stefania, and I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. So I'm doing that, and that's the main thing that I'm doing, actually. But I'm also, with my friend Nati, we're also starting a women's group here in San Diego. We have it in person and online. So if you're listening, you're welcome to join our Zoom calls. They're every 2 weeks, and it's called Mujeres Medicina. So it's women who feel drawn to the path of a medicine woman and what that means. And we feel in this group we're all on this path, and it's not hierarchical. Like, we're all learning and just connecting deeply with ourselves and with nature, and understanding what it means to be on the path of a medicine woman. And we know it's not easy, it's not glamorous. It's like, it's real. So we need support.
It is.
Those are the main two things that are coming to mind right now.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you again so much for this conversation and for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Kelly, for having me. I love that we were able to talk.
Yes. Thank you for being part of the Happy Rebel podcast community. Stay connected with us on Instagram at Happy Rebel. If you've enjoyed our episodes, please consider rating, liking, and reviewing the podcast. It truly does help us grow. Until next time, this is Kelly Street. Remember, embrace the dark and the light.